In this video, I thought we would go back and revisit the NECA Toys Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, Ultimate Jason Voorhees. Now, if you're curious as to how tall Jason stands, this particular Jason, much like the others, stand at 7.5 inches tall. What can I say? I was feeling nostalgic for Jason ever since we were looking at the other two Jasons from the Ultimate line. In fact, we'll put 6 right there. I guess we should put 6 here in proper sequence. We'll bring in the just recently looked at Part 4. And prior to that, the Ultimate Part 3. Each one of them brings something slightly different to the table. The notable thing about Part 6 is this is the only time we ever got a Part 6 Jason, if you don't technically count the retro cloth, which of course is its own thing altogether. But strictly speaking, from 7-inch plastic figures, this is the only time we've gotten a Part 6 Jason from NECA Toys. Now obviously you will, being a Jason fan, will notice Part 3, Part 4, right there. We'll just kind of move them over a little bit, and we'll move Part 6 over. Why are you making a big gap right there? Making a gap because hopefully, as I put two slices of bread together, and somebody once said, put 2 slices of bread together and make a wish. It's a wish sandwich. I would wish with my wish sandwich that we eventually get ourselves an Ultimate Part 5 Roy. That would be so good. We do have a Part 5 Roy, technically, of course, with the retro cloth versions, but people that are more towards the action figure line so desperately need a Part 5 Roy right there. Wish sandwich right there. But those are the 3 Ultimate Jasons that we've gotten so far. I guess we should really get still maybe a Pamela Voorhees with a little baby small child Jason, which we did get again in the retro cloth line, and a sack Jason, which we did technically get in the retro cloth line and the original Cult Classics line. But a Pamela, young Jason, sack Jason, 3, 4, Roy, 6, and then hopefully all the figures after that. But those are your 3 Jason figures. If you want to watch the independent individual reviews of those, I've already got those posted on the channel. Let's have a look at Jason from Part 6. I will admit, one of the less stellar designs for Jason. I really didn't like this particular design of Jason, but I will say this. He has a look to him that breaks up the looks of all the other Jasons. 3 and 4 look so similar. Then you've got 6, which to me just, I don't know why, reminds me of like evergreen scented car air freshener. I don't know why I think that when I look at this Jason. He has such a different look to him that then 7 and 8 kind of have those subtle, more toned down colors to him. Yeah, Part 6 has a drastic look to him. Not one of my favorites, I will admit, but Part 6 is one of my favorite Jason Voorhees movies because I really like the incorporating of the camp counselors, the young children. I think just it had a fun feel. It was like the MTV version of Jason. It was the equivalent of the Dream Master for the Nightmare on Elm Street films. It just had a very different feel to it that I like Part 6 a lot. Still don't like the design of Jason, granted. I think it's probably, I have to say, 2 things. It's the head, which again just kind of reminds me of he's made out of like evergreen, and it's the utility belt. Now initially I would think utility belt, why would he make such efforts to get a utility belt? Does he really care? But I guess if he is killing people and, here is a belt that has everything on it that he would need, I guess that would make sense that he would carry it around. But between that and the garden gloves, not a very silly looking Jason. Here is his mask, which has an egg shape to it. It should have been, and I guess I could try to heat this up, it should have actually had a more circular shape to it rather than an oval egg shape. That's one of the things about the Part 6 Jason, is that he has one of the more rounder masks. It and Part 8 have some of the roundest masks. If you want to look at round masks, is one of the more rounder masks of the Friday films. The coloring also could have been a little bit darker. It's kind of, he has more of a tan color in the movie, but I think the mask looks pretty good. And I like that the eye holes, you can't see the eyes. It's a solid piece of plastic. They painted in the dark areas of the mask so you can't see his eyes. One of the cooler things about Part 6 Jason. Let's go ahead and take his mask off. I might also add that the mask sits relatively loose on Jason, and I had part of the strap right at the top here break off. Well, it didn't break off. They're pegged in, but the peg, it just unpegged itself, and I couldn't get the strap part back in, so I've since glued it. Not that you would notice it unless I told you that, but I have since glued it in. Now, I don't know where Tommy Jarvis would have had this particular mask. I mean, again, for the events of Part 6, we just carry around this mask, because the mask does look slightly different. He just decides, hey, I want to impale and stab Jason and make sure he's dead forever. I'm going to bring a mask with me. I don't know why you would have brought a mask, but there's Jason's face. It's a train wreck. I will admit. My least favorite. No, that's not true. Part 8 was a really bad face sculpt as well. But this is right up there. That's like borderline Swamp Thing, Moss Man sort of thing going on there. I get that he's supposed to look like a mummified corpse, but somehow by painting it slightly green, it resonates more so from like a Swamp Thing than it does Jason. I will give props to the fact that they sculpted in like bone, like the bone lower portion of the jaw. I think that's kind of neat, as well as the bone that you can see from the top areas of his eye. Now, you really don't see much of this in the actual movie. In the movie, he's sitting down in the grave. I'm depicting this very badly. He's sitting in the grave, and he opens his eyes, but he's got like maggots and stuff all over his face that you really don't see his face. He crawls out, and because it's rain and it's dark, you really don't see a lot of this. And again, it's an interesting look. It's grown over the area with the machete, but you can still see slight indication where the cut would have been, and the big gash from the axe is still there as well. But there's his face. Again, his body is very similar to the other Jasons. I guess the closest one being Part 4 Jason by sequence. Somehow he got a much vibrant, more green colored shirt than the dirtied shirt. I mean, he's been buried, and yet somehow his shirt is more pristine. But again, there's the body's like from the legs down. It's basically the exact same figure. The torso, I guess, really to that regard is also the exact same, other than the fact that they sculpted in the utility belt. Let's talk that utility belt. He's got some little like darts. I think they were like throwing darts or like little throwing blades. He's got a holster on the side for his knife, and he's got a holster on the side for his machete. There's the back of it right there as well. Sculpting is great. No complaints with the sculpt. No real complaints actually with the head sculpt either. Just because I don't like the head sculpt doesn't mean it's a poor sculpt. It's a good sculpt, just on a design I don't like. Again, the gloves. Why? Yes, that's, I guess, the one thing. If Jason was going to be grabbing a utility belt, it holds weapons. Why he needs gloves? Your guess is as good as mine. I guess just to keep his hands together. Maybe his hands are just falling apart. Who knows? Who really knows? There's the bottom of his feet. You can see how they've shredded like the bottom of his legging, his bottom of his legs, his pants, which actually is not like that on Part 4. They sculpted that in, which is nice. I like that. Again, don't really like the face sculpt. Let's just go ahead and put the hockey mask back on. Before we do that, though, the hockey mask really should have been, and I can't really do this, I don't want to damage the mask, but should actually be a wider mask. It shouldn't be narrow like this. Despite that, though, we'll go ahead and put the mask back on his head. And let's have a look at Jason's accessories. Get him to properly stand. First things first, he comes with his tombstone. begs the question, who would bury Jason and then on top of that put a tombstone in? But apparently there was a planned scene that Jason's dad played some pivotal role in burying Jason and kind of coming back and seeing the grave site and everything else like that. Cut out. We never really saw Jason's dad up to the comic release. And there was a comic, I think it was a standalone Jason run, where we established it was his dad. But then in the Jason game, Friday the 13th Jason game, the Pamela tapes reveal that that wasn't his dad because his dad was abusive in the comics, an alcoholic. He beat up Jason and whatnot. But his real dad, I think, ran away or left or something like that. That it was the boyfriend in the comic. I'm talking about all this other stuff that really isn't relevant to the movie. But needless to say, there was going to be a scene with Mr. Voorhees. Just wasn't in there. The tombstone is pretty good. I mean, it's got some wash, like a gray wash to it. It's got a crack on the back. It looks like broken stone. So no complaints whatsoever there. Other accessories he comes with is another partially closed hand, just a hole big enough to hold the fence post, which let's look at right now. He comes with a fence post that Tommy rips off and begins to impale Jason during a lightning storm. Gee, what would have possibly happened to that? Well, the electricity awoke Jason and made him into the zombified Walking Dead that we all know and love. It's nice that he comes included with this. I mean, Jason makes a good kill with this, lifts the guy and stabs the girl in the water, leaving the very famous scene. It's actually a shame that the American Express floating in the water, Don't Leave Home Without It, didn't actually make it to this release of figure. That would have been pretty cool as well. Small. It would have been very, very small. Maybe like a little puddle of water, sculpted puddle of water with a little American Express card in there would have been fun. But he comes with this. It actually comes in 2 pieces so that you can take the figure. So instead of trying to figure out how you would get that through, you essentially just slide it through the one end, take the other end, and you guessed it, the 2 ends, if I can actually get a good grip on it, the 2 ends connect together. There we go. And you've got yourself the fence post, which looks good. I mean, I'll probably end up displaying him with this because he doesn't make use of it very much in the movie, but what he does, it's fun. So I like that. Also comes with a hunting knife, which, as you can see, really does not look like it's been used. It's still nice and pristine silver with a black handle and a little silver tip for good measures. That, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, can fit right into the holster of his utility belt. And it is a little difficult, I have to admit, to get it in there, but you can fit it completely in. The other more familiar thing to see with Jason is his machete, which is a silver. Once again, just like the hunting knife, there's really no blood on it. He hasn't used it yet. Oh, he will though. Oh, he will. And what you can do is also take that, and that fits into the much larger holster, just like so. So if you don't want to display Jason with a machete or his hunting knife, and you want to display him with, instead, the fence post, you can do that. And again, probably how I'm going to be displaying him. Eventually, I'd love to get these guys on display. These are some of my favorite figures, and I just never have them on display. They're usually sitting away in totes. Why? I don't know. I got to get some shelves or something going where I can probably display some of my favorite NECA figures, especially the Jasons, because I have a soft spot for Jasons. There's some blood on his pants there as well. Let's run through his poseability, shall we? His head is on ball joint. Arms hinge outward. Essentially, if you've collected any of the Jason figures, that's one thing that the Friday the 13th does have that the Nightmare on Elm Street didn't have. The initial figures were staction from like the waist down. Jason has full poseability, but if you've seen one figure, you're essentially seeing all the figures. A hinge in the elbow, a rotation in the forearm, a rotation in the hand, an upper torso ball joint, a waist swivel, forward and back motion on the legs split outward, is a bend at the knee, a rotation in the lower leg, and he has a rotation and ankle pivot in the foot. There in all his splendor is Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, Jason Voorhees. Again, good looking figure. Love the figure, love the paint application, love the accessories that he comes included with. Not one of my favorite Jason designs, mind you, but I think he is such a great looking piece, especially if you have the other Jasons on display. And let's once again bring those guys in. Part 6, Part 4, Part 3, right there. Wish sandwich happening again. 2 slices of bread, a wish in the middle. I wish that we eventually get Sack Jason. Pamela Voorhees I would love to get. I know we already got Pamela Voorhees technically in a plastic treatment that came with, I think it was a Sack Jason, wasn't it? Sack Jason, Pamela Voorhees, and it had the little diorama in the middle. We already technically have gotten her, or maybe she was on her own, I don't really know. But love to get another Sack Jason, fully posable. Of course, Roy Jason, Wish Sandwich, Roy Jason, and then 7, 8, 9, maybe another remake, Ultimate, and maybe a Freddy vs. Jason Ultimate. We can only hope. That's what the Wish Sandwich is for. It's to put 2 slices of bread together, a wish in the middle, and you can wish for, hopefully, NECA continuing to release these figures. Again, good looking figure. Probably won't get another Jason 6 or Friday 13th Part 6 Jason. So I think if you get a chance, and you can find this guy at a relatively good price, and that's the downside, because he is only one in himself, there's really only one way to get him. The price of him will skyrocket. Unfortunately, much like the other Jasons though, the Jasons, you have some Ultimates that have been released, you had the original released figures. This guy is just by himself. It's just him. So his prices are a little bit higher, unfortunately. But if you do get a chance, I would definitely say pick this guy up, especially if you're collecting the other Friday 13th Jasons. Today, once again, we were revisiting the Friday 13th Part 6, I was going to say Part 4, 6, Jason Lives. This was Ultimate Jason Voorhees. Like this video, hit it with a like. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, hit the subscribe button down below, and you won't miss future not only Jason Voorhees figure reviews, but also other reviews as well. And if you're also a fan of Jason Voorhees, I've got a playlist where you can see every single Jason Voorhees collectible figure and whatnot that I've ever done on this channel, including some Jason masks. You did Jason masks? I sure did. It's all on the playlist. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.